That's it?
The theory is that the child doesn't just get the information, but that the teacher gives them the information in a way that they can utilize it and grow and learn independently more off of the specific subject versus just taking it and being like, okay, this is it. And great, I guess check less.
Good.
Like,
Okay.
you keep discovering more.
Okay, good. Does anybody have any other insights maybe about? Yes.
It would kind of be like we go back to pliés, right? Like
Yes.
we build on other things, we spiral up, but we come back to like pliés and contours
Right.
and continue to build up on those.
Right. Good application. So again, yes. Oh, now everybody has something to say. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
I think it's important to make sure that your spiral actually goes up. I just remember being in about middle school and complaining to a teacher that we were repeating something we'd already done, and the teacher actually explained spiral curriculum to me, and I thought, no, we're not spiraling, we're just circling.
Okay, that's a really interesting concept. So make sure you think of a spiral, not a circle. And so anybody want to draw, Joan sort of was drawing in the air. Somebody want to draw a spiral clearly in the air? Or would somebody like to spiral in the air? Okay.
Wait,
okay, yes.
This way?
Yes.
Go that way?
I think we want to think of
That's
it as
hierarchical
this way.
versus.
Mariana, let's look at Mariana's because she
Doesn't
has
matter
a
which
pen.
direction it's
Look at
going.
that.
Mastered.
Hey, she's mastering the pen again.
It goes out.
Yay. It's going out.
I don't think it goes up.
It's going out and up, so it's kind of a funnel shape.
Or you could think about it in time and have it go forward.
Yeah. Okay.
But the spiral is more. It's like that. It's a circle that keeps going in one direction.
Progresses.
And it comes back around.
Yes. Yes. So what Hillary is just saying that it just doesn't come back and become a circle and repeating on itself. Yes. Okay. Good.
I
Yes.
guess just considering what they mentioned, that how taking the idea but then adding on it and letting the student analyze it and maybe make connections. I think that builds into some simplicity building on that concept. So
Good.
I don't think it comes back, but if the student is able to grasp the idea but then work around it and think about it, you know, just critical thinking implied. It's building on.
Yes. Hang on. We had 2 comments over here. We sort of lost them right there. The comments. Yeah.
No, I didn't have a comment. I was doing arms.
Oh,
We
you
talked
were
about
doing
the
arms.
example.
I'm sorry.
She has
We
a
had Franco's class yesterday, and so we were talking about sort of spiraling back. And we had this amazing class where he kept coming back to this position that normally everyone's here and we're learning how to change. And so we did like multiple combinations where he reintroduced that, and it was so funny how we would go on, we'd go from Tita Allegro and we would do Grande Allegro, and we'd all forget it. We'd all be like here, and they'd be like, all right, let's go back. And so we kept going back, and so by the end we all had like this prettier position that he was working on. So it was physically spiraling back to that.
You know, that Franco just amazes me because he is, the guy's never gone to college, but he has such intuitive intelligence. He's really brilliant. So, you know, you could go to him, like next week and say, Franco, and you hand him a book and say, you teach this way. So that would be really exciting just to say to him, you actually teach this way. So here's the language for what you're doing.
I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but we all left that class just like on cloud 9.
Yes. He's the most amazing teacher, yes, don't
Like it's a good example of like Howard's theory actually, which you were saying about him like not going to school but like teaches. But anyway, that's not what I was. Laban, like the
Yeah.
Laban analysis class, I
Yeah.
feel like it's a really effective way to use theories. Base it off of like you get these instructions or like explanations to different things, and then you have to explore it for yourself.
Right.
There's not really right or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, you know, think about that. You know, the only reason we're not covering Laban in here is because you have a whole class on him, you know, but there's not, I'm glad you said that because the theorists that we bring up in this class don't mean these are the only theorists and ignore everybody else in this world, or this is the end of theory and this is it. This is just an accumulation because these people have had a strong relationship to educational theory and to theories that then grew into movement education and dance education, or people in dance education can really relate to them. But this is not just a fixed starting or stopping point. So if at any time you're making a connection to a theory you heard elsewhere, or in all your free time over your fall break, you just abstractly are picking up more books to read, and you find somebody else, do make those applications because that's really great. And so, yes, make those applications to all your other courses. That's what this is about. You know, this is really the only place where we have a chance to bring in, even though we did talk a little bit about some people who were related to dance specifically, most of the people we bring in this semester don't really have anything to do with dance. They may be dance appreciators, but it's important to know this because when you're in any kind of educational context, be it a private studio, university, K through 12, whatever you're doing, to be able to talk about what you're doing in light of theorists that they may know from educational theory will just help you get into the conversation a little better. And that's really important too, because, you know, and then, you know, I'm sort of looking, this isn't the only ballet group here, but I keep looking at our ABT table over here. You know, if you end up, you know, and I don't know where your career will take you, but let's say you're teaching in a private studio that's just ballet. Nobody's really going to know about Jerome Bruner or Vygotsky, but by bringing in that conversation, letting them know that your, you know, work that you're doing with their students is much more thoughtful than I like this step. You know, you'll have a greater ground to stand on to justify what it is you want to do with them. You know, you may just impress them with your knowledge, but that's okay too. You know, but I think there's a whole lot more going on. You know, some of us will find that we've been doing this intuitively, just like Franco, I promise you, has never, ever studied spiral curriculum. But he just has it in his whole being, and that's really great. And we will always find people who are like that, you know. So we just will support them by maybe when you graduate, you can give them a spiral curriculum definition. Give it to him as a present. I don't know. Anything's possible. Okay. Other thoughts about spiral curriculum? Spiral, yes.
I also teach art at the school, and we had parent-teacher night the other day, and some of the parents were upset with me because I was teaching their kids the color wheel, and it is a high school, so you know I'm working with 16, 17, 18-year-olds. But I was saying to them, introduction to painting, how to mix colors. So even though we're learning the color wheel, which is a basic elementary thing, you know, we need to constantly go back because I'm sure that half my classes remember the color wheel. So in order to take steps forward, I think it's really important to take steps back. And
right.
Constantly, no matter what subject area it is, constantly repeat that information because you take it with you and you build upon it. If that foundation is not there, or if it's a weak foundation, building upon it is going to be impossible. So that was just interesting that this is the topic of today because I had that conversation with the parents, explaining to them how important the basics were and why we are reviewing this, not being stagnant in one place, but doing it so that we can move on to bigger and better things.
That's a good question.
And that also goes along with, like, I mean, whatever, in terms of thinking about, like, yoga, that there's, like, this set group of poses. I mean, same thing with, again, we talk about pliés and tendus. It's that
there are things
it's not like,
you do.
oh, I already know how to do that. It's the more advanced you get, the more subtle and well-rounded and interesting can be your it's a grammatically weird sentence. The more you can understand the concept or the basic idea at hand, just on more subtle and complex and interesting levels. There was some other part that has left my brain.
That's okay, it'll come back.
Anyway, it's the whole thing of, like, yeah, the person who wants to do the 32 fuertes, like,
yes,
the first day, rather than, well, if you want a life of fuertes, then learn, like, take more steps to get there.
There's a lot more steps to get there. So. Growing to mature long bones is one of the starts, but, you know, so there are steps, but yeah, just basic alignment, you know, and it takes a long time. And then we have to recognize also that when we deal with people as movers, we're human beings whose bodies and physical beings have fluctuations. So it's sort of like we have to reclaim basics every day, you know? Now, in dance or language, we sometimes say, today I'm just off my center, right? How many of you have thought about that? Okay. That's basically like reclaiming your basics every day, right? Okay? So there is, the spiral curriculum really makes sense for dance because it just, you don't just wake up in the morning and just naturally have that. You sort of have to just, you know, and lots of things change, you know, your hydration, your amount of sleep, amount of rest, you know, what you've been eating lately. I mean, just, you know, body, life cycles, you know, circadian rhythms, all those things influence it. And people find that all the time when they're thinking about things like, you know, altitude, jet lag, and things like that, but they don't think about it just in day-to-day, you know. Every now and again it comes up with dance companies and with sports teams when it comes to things like jet lag. And last summer I was at a meeting in Taipei and ABT was coming to Taipei at the same time, and I met Julie, physical trainer, physical therapist. Julie and I are longtime friends, so we were like, oh, we're going to be in Taipei at the same time we got together. And so the whole company arrived, and then they had like a day and a half just free time just to get, you don't get unjet lagged in a day and a half, but you couldn't go on stage the night after you arrived just because it's way too often. All of you from Asia know that's like the worst trip ever. There's got to be worse. But
in terms of Hillary's point, though, I think that it's also interesting because, like, you can get stuck in a rut. So how to return to the basics in a way that puts them in a new context, that, like, the safety of, life is crazy and insane. So let's have some kind of, you know, routine and ritual, and the you know, the value of returning, having a set way to do things so that you can, it's sort of your control group along with the cuckoo-ness of life.
Well, you know, that's a really interesting thing. So then maybe we'll say that societies that have basic rituals, maybe we're intuitively thinking about this all the time, you know. Why do you have something that you come back to all the time? You know, what is that really about? And obviously, you know, they were doing that long before people put names on all these things. So what is it about that we need? You know.
It's about our finding patterns, I think.
Yeah.
The known, but you know, we've all had those teachers that sort of talk about the same material in the same way every time, and even if you feel like, yes, it's great to be doing this again, it can get boring. So it's an interesting invitation for all of us to keep things stable and measurable and not all over the place, but also mix it up. And when one or the other is appropriate.
Right. Because too much new throws people completely off. Too much ritual kind of lulls people, right? So you got to have a balance. Yes.
I think a great teacher also tricks you into doing those things. Like yesterday, how when we were taking Franco's class, like I didn't realize it until he actually made a comment. And he was like, "Hello, we've been doing this the whole class," and every combination, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you were so." Right, we have, and my arm is, I literally was like, like it was one of those where I was like,